EU members are taking part in a two-day summit in Brussels. On top of the agenda will, of course, be the Russia-Ukraine war and the energy crisis that Europe presently faces. But another key topic is the EU's relationship with China. The EU will discuss what the relationship will, of course, look like in the future. In the invitation for the summit itself, the European Council chief, Charles Michel, had written of the need to discuss China in the present geopolitical context. Now, the EU foreign ministers, in fact, met in Luxembourg on Monday, and even there, many, in fact, had spoken of the need to address the relations with China at the summit.
This is a good package because it's a good basis building EU side when we face.
It is going to be about China as it becomes more and more assertive, and assertiveness and increase in power, which, in our view, must be accompanied by an acceptance of responsibility. China must give us its ambiguous position towards Russia and take a clear position with regard to the aggression against Ukraine.
What you see is that there is more and more realism in the dialogue with China, that we are leaving naivety behind us, and I think that is completely justified.
It is as much complex as it was when we said that it's a partner, competitor and a rival. I think that we have to continue dealing with these three dimensions of our relationship with China.
The partner, competitor and a rival, how will each aspect shape the EU's relationship? From the partnership perspective, the EU has highlighted climate change. The world will not be able to solve the climate crisis without China on its side, which is one of the world's biggest polluters. Now, in terms of competition, China has access to rare metals that are essential for goods such as semiconductors. The reports also say that China controls nearly about 85% of the world's cobalt. If the EU wants to become self-sufficient, then it will have to fight China for the control of these rare earth minerals. It will have to compete with China's manufacturing capabilities. The competition aspect is at the forefront of the talks because the EU's dependence on Russia has been exposed by the Ukraine war. Steep gas prices, uncertainty about fuel for winter and also the cost of living crisis have brought turmoil across the European Union. Europe is now extremely wary of becoming too dependent on China or giving Beijing the ability to cripple Europe in case of future hostilities, which brings us to the rival aspect. Now, China has maintained a strategic silence on the Russia-Ukraine war. It has abstained from voting against Russia at the United Nations. As Xi Jinping comes closer to securing a third term in power, China's threats about using force to capture Taiwan are also causing some serious concerns. Now, Beijing's human rights record in Xinjiang has also been criticized by much of the world. That China could eventually clash with the EU due to these issues. So the question, of course, is, does the EU want to be prepared for such a scenario? That China has denied of any potential rift. The Chinese Foreign Ministry recently said that it wants to develop more trade ties with the EU.
中国一贯奉行独立自主的和平外交政策，我们的发展给世界各国带来的是机遇，绝不是威胁和挑战。我们希望英国新政府能够客观理性地看待中国和中英关系。 抱守中国威胁的旧思维只会害人害己，没有出路。
However, despite the Chinese assurances, the EU still plans to address ties with Beijing. The Brussels summit may bring in a new dynamic in the EU-China relationship. That is, of course, if all EU members can in fact agree on how to proceed from there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.